This film is a love letter to people who are like us, who believe that everyone should have the right to die in a dignified way. And it's a love letter to the people who, for whatever reason, cannot do that. And it's a love letter to the people who are left behind, especially the loved ones of people who are facing penalties, legal penalties, for assisting their loved ones to die peacefully.
As sentient beings, we find ourselves thrown into a world that inflicts immense pain and suffering. So having the option of a graceful exit should be seen as a basic, universal human right. Since our existence is better to never have been, we should all have the right to die. Welcome to The Right to No Longer Exist, a Right to Die podcast. In this show, we attempt to change the perception of society's views of voluntary euthanasia and what true autonomy could look like.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Right to No Longer Exist podcast. Thank you for being here. I wanted to jump in first before the episode starts to ask you to please pause and go to the link below, and there's a film called After This. And I am interviewing in the podcast the producer, director, and actress for this film, Kaitlyn Clare. She's amazing, does an amazing job. It's a great film, and it might give you a better context of the conversation if you stop here and just watch the film first. But if you can't, or you're unable to, or you're just doing the audio version of this podcast, fine, whatever. We don't spoil it too much. Anyway, I just ask you to please watch this film. It's so amazing. It deserves millions of views, and it, it only has, I don't know, a couple thousand or something, which baffles me. It should have millions. So it was great to have her on. We talked about wonderful, just overall conversation of subjects regarding her life, her experiences with death, making the film, process of making the film, and just overall views about this whole right to die stuff that we're fighting for. So it was really an honor to have her on, and I enjoyed every minute of it. So please pause and watch the movie, and then come right back here and continue to watch our conversation. So please welcome Kaitlyn Clare to the episode.
Okay, so I'm here with Kaitlyn Clare, filmmaker of After This, producer, writer. It is so glad to be here. I'm honored to have you and speak with you truly about this amazing film that you made. So thanks for coming, and thanks for talking with me. I really do appreciate it.
Oh my goodness, Kevin. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so honored that not only that you watched it, but that you have responded to it in such a positive way, and that you want to talk about it. It has a big message. So I'm really thrilled to be able to discuss it with anyone who's willing. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It was an amazing film. Really, it was. I hit the spot for me. It was just so emotional, and it was so touching and professional, and just different. It was so much different than a lot of other right to die, death with dignity type content out there, where a lot of it is just documentary, which is totally cool. But this one's just a straight up narrative film, and that had its own little flavor to it that was just awesome. And so thank you so much. I mean, we'll talk about it in depth, but I'm just so curious of how that whole process went. But yeah, how did it all start for you, I guess? How did you get motivated or inspired to make the movie?
Yeah, it was kind of a happy accident in a way. It's not like I sat down one day and thought, I'm going to come up with a storyline, write a script, and then make a film. That's not how it came about at all. I'm an actor. I always have been an actor, but I had never really thought much about filmmaking in any other capacity, at least not where I wear the hats, But basically, there were a couple of contributing factors. The first one that really got the ball rolling was just a very sort of quick background into my personal circumstances, because it's very significant. But I lost my beautiful cousin Sean to a brain tumor when she was 21 and I was about 10 years old. And that's always kind of stuck with me. And I lost my mother to breast cancer when I was 12 and she was 44. And that certainly has always stuck with me. And knowing that I had lost my mother to that disease and that it was really prevalent on her side of the family, so prevalent, in fact, that there are no women alive on her side of the family. Actually, there's no one alive on her side of the family. I went and I resisted it for a long time, but I went and got some genetic testing done and tested positive for the BRCA1 mutation. And what that means is that I'm a pretty strong candidate for getting either breast or ovarian cancer. It's up to an 89% chance in my lifetime. And when you combine that genetic fault with also happening to have, a really bad family history of that cancer, it's a little bit on my father's side as well. It sort of, that genetic test result kind of drops like a bomb, and I was really, really devastated by it, to be honest. I was really rattled. We all die. I know that. There's no, you don't get out of this life alive, that's for sure. And I'm kind of at peace with that. But when given the opportunity to think about the ways in which you might want to exit this life, I don't want to die like that. I saw my mother suffer immeasurably. And so a lot of old grief kind of came back up to the surface. And I just had a really hard time processing the fact that I have this stupid genetic mutation. And that this is not to say, by the way, that if breast cancer were to appear, it would be a death sentence. I mean, I'm monitored very regularly. I'm likely to have preventive surgeries even, but to me, my experience of it is that it's a death sentence and a really gnarly one at that.
Yeah.
So I was up very late, crying and stressing. You know how it goes. And thinking about, okay, well, wow, when I go for that first MRI, what if I've already got it? And what if it's already really advanced? And what if this is actually a death sentence? And all these, what ifs.
Yeah.
And I got into a pretty deep place of thinking. And that was, okay, well, if that is my situation, if I do get the worst possible results after this first test, because age comes into play here. Like I was already at the age that, or very close to the age that my mother was diagnosed with cancer. What would I want, and so I'm up late thinking about all of this stuff, very, very emotional. And I got to thinking about my step grandmother, Margie Beskin, who passed away a few years ago, but she was so awesome. She was so awesome. She was a brilliant, educated advocate for medical aid in dying in Australia, or assisted euthanasia in Australia, or whatever you want to call it. And she was a registered nurse. She had seen a lot of suffering in her career. She knew what she was advocating for. She understood the intricacies of it all. And from the time that I first met her, which was about 14 years, at the age of 14 years, she started to educate me about these beliefs that she held and why she held them and what it meant to her to, in the future, have medical aid in dying accessible to all Australians. I grew up in Australia, and she just really started planting these seeds of thought that over the course of my life have developed into very passionate beliefs that I too hold. I really am an advocate for people's right to die, especially if they're terminally ill. They're going to die anyway, and they're suffering. So all of these thoughts were swirling around in my head, and I was listening to some sad music, as you do.
That's good fodder for ideas.
Absolutely. And I just started to see these images in my mind and see these characters, and this story just started to form in my imagination from thinking about, asking myself questions like, what does a beautiful death look like? What makes a life worth living? And this story started to form. And so I wrote it down, and I wrote it in the format of a screenplay, because that's the format that I know because I'm an actor, and, I took a screenwriting class at university, that kind of thing. And that's just the format that came to be. And I found then moving forward, after I just I just wrote it down to kind of get it out of my head, but then the story didn't leave me. I couldn't get it out of my head. And it became evident to me that maybe it was a story that needed to be told, and that come hell or high water, I should probably tell it. In the hope that people like me, like us, like all of us, might recognize themselves in it. And I think there are a lot of people who can recognize themselves in at least one part of it. We all know someone who has experienced terminal illness. We've pretty much all lost someone that we love, or known someone who's lost someone that they love. I mean, death touches us all, and death is natural, but the thing that makes it scary is how uncontrollable it is.
Yeah.
Especially when suffering is involved and life is bad, and you have no quality of life, and you're just sort of waiting for death to occur. I think we should all have the option to bow out gracefully when the time feels right to us, and not be forced to suffer past the point that we can endure it or want to endure it.
Yeah.
And I think it's also really important for those that feel this way. And I understand that not everyone wants access to medical aid in dying. That's fine. If you don't want access to it, don't do it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But
exactly.
I don't think access should be denied to the people that do want it.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of that is kind of preserving, the memory of your life, celebrating your life, preserving the memory of the best version of you for your loved ones.
Yeah.
No one wants to remember the version of you that is its weakest and is in pain and is a shadow of the person your loved ones knew or know,
Totally. Yeah. I've had people pass away that have been grim deaths, and instead of this memory of how wonderful they are, the first memory is always, oh yeah, that's the person that died of XYZ, whatever. And it sucks. It's unnecessary, like, what's the point to why have garbage when you don't need to have garbage? Just take it out, take out the garbage. Now you have a clean, kitchen or whatever, that kind of thing. Like, prevention basically is the best. That type of prevention is the best. And I think your grandmother was a huge influence, if that was the seed that planted this movie, like, props to her, too, for planting the idea in your mind.
Yeah. And I just want to say, when she passed of a pretty awful disease. And, it involved some gangrene and some amputations and whatnot. And when her life was coming to its end, you know, all she wanted was to die with grace and peace. And it frustrates me endlessly that the amendments to the laws that she'd been campaigning for so long had not yet come into action in Australia. I mean, it's there now. You know, voluntary assisted dying is now available in every state of Australia, not the 2 territories, but it's there now. But at that time, she couldn't access medical dying and was forced to suffer in the way that she never wanted to and never wanted for anyone else. It breaks my heart that that happened to her, but she kept a good sense of humor, you know, through the end. But unfortunately, yes, you make a valid point. I mean, you know, we remember seeing her now in a state that she didn't want to be in, wheelchair, and you know, having lost limbs and just having absolutely zero quality of life.
And it must be so frustrating to know that there's nothing you can do about it either. You know, if you were to help her, like like the way it should be, the way it is in some places of the world where euthanasia is legal, you know, if you did anything, it's illegal. So, you know, obviously, so you don't want that. So you're in this conundrum of, I want to help, but I can't help. And you know, for them, what they want. You actually know what they want. It's not a stranger off the street where you're like, well, we're not quite sure, you know, what they want because they can't speak or whatever it is that they can't advocate for themselves for whatever reason. You know, I'm sure she was been voicing it till the very last, you know, and it's just so frustrating is all. Yeah.
Absolutely. She was constantly saying, I just want to die. And I really feel for her. My mother, I don't know it was never a discussion, the idea that she could be aided in ending her life. It was never something. I mean, she really wanted to live, my mom. It was really devastating. And this is the thing that people need to understand about terminally ill people who wish to access medical aid in dying. These people, some people do want to die. They want to exit their lives. In terms of terminally ill people, though, they don't want to die, but they are dying. Yeah. They are dying. And all they're asking for is to make that process something that is within their control, more dignified and more peaceful. My mother, I don't know what she would have chosen. She probably wouldn't have chosen to access medical aid in dying, even if it had been available. Mm-hmm. She I think had a goal. She lived sort of a few months longer than she was expected to, and I don't know this for a fact, but I really believe that she was determined to see me start high school, because the timing of it was such that she was on death's door. She was in a hospital at this point and virtually unrecognizable. And it was my first day of high school, new school, you know, and we stopped in at the hospital on the way to that first day of school so that she could see me in my new school uniform. And she went into a coma not long after that, and she died in the early hours of the next morning.
Wow, I'm sorry.
But you know, it's interesting, isn't it? What kinds of residual guilt kind of stay with you over the years? Because I was a preteen. I was 12 years old, and my priorities were those of a 12-year-old. I gotta go. I don't want to be here. I gotta get to school. I gotta get there early. I've got to get a good desk and homeroom. You know.
Yeah.
I don't want people to look at me, kind of thing. And so I couldn't have gotten out of that hospital room fast enough, let me tell you, because she didn't even feel like my mum anymore, to be honest. And so I got out of there, and to this day, I feel so guilty for that. I feel so guilty that show her more love and give her a big hug, and, you know, because I didn't know that it was going to be the last time that I saw her. And I like to think that I probably, dashed out of the room full of false importance and chuckled to herself thinking, my daughter is 12.
Yeah, totally. Like she just know that that's probably what she thought, was just she's just busy being a 12-year-old. Like it's nothing personal,
Yeah.
But no, yeah, it's still hard to think about later on when you're like, oh yeah, I was like pretty involved with in my own head at this time, and would have been nice to be more thoughtful about this or that or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Took myself a long time to forgive myself for that. But just to compare the pair, Margie, if given the option, would have taken it in a heartbeat. My mother, I don't think she would have. But I mean, it just goes to show people's personal decisions are, that's none of our business. But everyone should have the option to make a decision.
Yeah, I mean, even people that are prescribed, the death with dignity prescription is don't take it. It's a small percentage, but some people have it, but they still don't take it. It's because it's scary. Sometimes even if you're relieving your own suffering and this and that, you're still all of a sudden faced with this scary notion of, oh my God, this is it. Like I'm creating the timeline of my life, not something external, which I can't do anything about. But if I can do something about it, yeah, there's a nice feeling of control there, but it's also wrestling with your own survival instinct. So it's very scary. That's a battle that every single suicide victim has had to deal with, is just overcoming that fear. And that's what really bugs me too, when people say that you're a coward when you kill yourself or something, because I mean the amount of courage it takes to overcome your survival instinct, especially when you're faced with the method that you're choosing, which is most likely a violent method because it's not legal. So anyway, I'm on some rant, but
no, I love it. I agree. I completely agree.
Yeah, it's just it's sad. It's sad to think about those windows that our loved ones have missed, like your grandmother, like my brother too, he killed himself and shot himself, and it bugs me and it drives me crazy, to think like, man, he just, she missed it by 10 years or whatever I still support him on his exit 100%, but it's like, damn, like these people, especially if things start to get legalized slowly, there's a lot of people dying today, this year or whatever, that are just barely going to miss that window of opportunity, like California, for example, they pushed it out 2 years, and now two years of death to me is on the country's hands, that blood is on their hands, so to speak. And because they're withholding it, and now people are going to have to continue to do the violent thing. And anyway, it's sad, especially when we know someone firsthand that's missed that window just by a couple years or whatever,
Yeah. I think about a friend of mine that was experiencing all kinds of anguish that none of us were clued in on. He masked it so well, but obviously he was in a world of pain in his life, and he jumped off a building, like it shouldn't have to be that way. People have very different reasons for wanting to exit their life. Maybe they're ill. Maybe they just cannot experience joy. Maybe they are alone and destitute. It doesn't matter what their circumstances are. It's all deeply personal to the individual. But if there really is no joy in life, I completely understand someone wanting for any reason to exit their life, and they should be able to do so in a peaceful manner and without there being this huge sort of, sorry, my dog is snoring.
I heard that.
But there shouldn't be this terrible stigma, it should be such a taboo thing.
Totally.
Be forced to suffer in silence, like in a corner, ending their life in this sort of sneaky and violent or hideous way. It's so unfair, and it's because it's so taboo to even talk about it that I feel a lot of people end their lives when maybe they otherwise wouldn't if they could just openly talk to someone without being judged, you know?
And just have like friendships that it feels like therapy, where you're being completely open and you're saying, do you want to live? No, not at all. Do you have plans? Yes, completely. All these things that you should not say right now to a therapist, because then they just 5150 you, and it gets really ugly there, But at the same time, like, what are they advocating for? Like, your friend, like, not only was traumatized, but maybe they traumatized other people by the EMT workers, or maybe pedestrians walking around, and they have to witness these things. And oh my gosh,
he was thoughtful in the way that he did it. I'll say that. He was
well, good. I was just kind of, in general, some people witness these things or become part of it, or family members just walk into the room and see their family member hanging or whatever. What the hell? That should be like the number one thing in the world, in this entire world, that everyone's on the same page about, and we're not. And it's so insane, because how the heck is compassion and mercy and grace not part of a society? Like, how is that excluded? Because to me, it seems
death is contagious, and that if you talk about it, it's gonna get, I mean, it is going to get you. It's going to get all of us. But people seem to think that if you initiate a discussion about it, that you're going to infect them in some way, and you're putting a curse upon their life, and talking about death makes you die. And it's just not, it's not the case. And there are so many people out there who genuinely, again, everyone's reason is specific to them. It's not for us to judge the reason, but there are so many people out there who don't want to be a part of life anymore. And I respect that. There are so many people out there who think they don't want to be a part of life anymore, but suicide for them is actually a permanent solution to a temporary problem, and those people deserve to be able to talk about where they're at without being fearful. Because in some cases a life may be saved, and in some cases it won't, and both, but it's okay, both of those options are okay. And then we have the people who are dying anyway, and soon. So it's funny. It's funny to me how uncomfortable people get talking about something that is so natural.
Yeah, I know.
Inevitable.
Yeah. There's a lot of denial, and a lot of, because it comes it's personal to every human on earth, oh, death. Oh, what? Like, my death. I've had friends that are like, that have other family members, I'll just say, that they're like, yeah, don't talk about death with them. They warn me not to talk it. Not that I talk about it all the time, but I mean, I like it, but they literally say, like, oh yeah, don't talk about death, like, because
don't say that. It's
triggering.
Bad luck.
Yeah. And it frustrates me too, with like the mental health advocates that are like pro suicide prevention. They say talk about it, right? But they're not actually saying talk about it in a way that a lot of people need to talk about it. They need to talk about it in a way where they feel safe to talk about it. And they need to say, hey, yeah, I want to die. I want to do this. And yes, I have a plan, and I want it all to end. I'm 100% sure. No, you can't say any of those things. You're completely censored from saying any of those things. But they'll still say the words, though, like, let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. And I'm always skeptical of that, because I'm like, yeah, right. You don't want to have the real conversation about what it is to live and die and suffer, and how much life sucks and all this stuff, because it's, I don't know. I feel like it's a tricky, shady used car salesman trick or something, Hey, come on. Like, they're luring you in. Let's talk about it. Come on. And then once you do, they're just like, this person needs help. Call 911, whatever. You know what I mean? It's so offensive to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My friend who passed jumping off the building. So he was actually a friend of mine from university, and he chose a building on campus, and at sort of 3-4 in the morning when no one was around. And I'm not knocking my university or any of the individuals that made these decisions, because I do understand where they were coming from. But I do remember thinking how strange it was when in the next couple of days, so many of us, his friends, people who loved him, wanted to celebrate him and celebrate his life and his memory and set up a memorial just for a couple of days. We were not allowed to do that. In fact, we were told to take it down, because the running line of thought was that, well, if people learn what he did, well, then it will inspire others to do the same thing, like it's some kind of contagious idea.
Mm-hmm.
So,
as if they're not aware of the word suicide already, like,
yeah. So sure, grieve and memorialize among yourselves, and it's important to talk about these things. It's important for your mental health to talk about your grief and your friend and process what has happened, but make sure no one else gets wind of it, because it's just it's always been so strange to me, how afraid people are of just simply talking about it.
Yeah, and that's all it is words, just talking about it. And it's truly just the modern day, like the way you can't talk, in certain days you couldn't talk about the Holocaust, right? Or you can't talk about slavery at some point or whatever. I just hate how people create so much taboo out of stuff. And it's clear that the solutions to these problems are to talk about it. And I'm a perfect testimony to that. I have friends that I talk to about it in full, totally, 100%, zero censorship, zero apprehension on we both go back and forth. We talk about every single deep, dark thing there is about it. And it's more valuable to me than therapy has ever been, because with the therapist or something, you're a little bit, okay, like you got to play this weird game, like censorship game, like, I'm not going to say that because they might do this. I'm not going to say that because they might do that, And so anyway, I wish society was like that, as open as it can be, with two friends that are on the same page and 100% support each other, and will never, call anybody on them, because that only damages their life even more. So, yeah. But sorry about your friend. That's it doesn't honor his life either by sweeping it under the rug, to not talk about him and stuff. And that's sad, because he needs to be honored, and just like anybody else needs to be when they pass away.
He's often thought about by many people, myself included. So
good.
He left his sparkling mark on people's lives, even though he left the world young.
Well, now that we've depressed the hell out of our listeners, let's talk about something fun, at least filmmaking, or I'm interested, and if you're okay with it, we can talk about some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. So you said, okay, so you were at the point where you were inspired by this movie and you started to write a script for it, right?
Yeah.
How long did that whole process take, and get to the point where you're actually filming and stuff?
The writing of it was very quick. It was like a night. And you've got the image in your head, right? Like the sleepless night of just crying and the music. And then there was a bit of, let's just call it digestion afterwards, where I wrote it just for the sake of writing it down, but never intended to do anything with it, cast it aside. And then it kind of was still in my system, I guess. Then the pandemic happened. So I wrote it at the end of 2019. And then 2020 occurred, and again it was just still kind of not a real thing, but I had been thinking about the potential of like whether it would be actually a viable short film. And it was 2020. We were all stuck at home. I had nothing better to do, so I sent it to a couple of friends who are in the industry in some way, whether they be producers or directors or whatever, to get their insights and feedback. And then I thought, okay, in early 2021, all right, we're gonna make this into a film. And at first it didn't even occur to me to direct it myself. I knew that I would produce it, but it didn't even occur to me to direct it myself because I had never directed anything aside from one theater thing at university for an assignment, which I didn't even love the process of doing, to be honest. But I had recruited a wonderful director. Her name's Lizzie Gurman, and I'd worked with her before as an actor. I'd shown her the script. She liked it. She thought it would be something that she would be willing to direct. And we'd started to sort of move in this direction with her attached, kind of captaining the ship. And I loved that because I love her and she's brilliant. And that was all awesome. But the thing was, I had become so attached to this story and saw it so clearly in my own mind's eye at this point, that I was just having even as a producer, I was just having too much of a creative influence, I think. And a couple of lifelong close friends had said to me, who'd read it, are you going to direct it? Why aren't you directing it? And Lizzie herself had been one of them earlier on. And she said, I think you should direct this. And I said, I don't think I can direct anything. I think you should direct this, you know. But it came to pass that I very much did need to direct it, just because I couldn't achieve the level of separation that was necessary to just be a producer and actor on it. And so Lizzie and I had a big heart to heart, and it was all love. It was all love. We're still good friends. There was,
cool.
no negative juju whatsoever, but I took over as director for that reason. And then things moved really quickly. Film Independent stepped up as the fiscal sponsor. They were amazing. So a fiscal sponsor, for those of you who don't know out there, is a company that has a 501c3 charity status, who can step up and say, hey, we're representing this project and this project is representing us, and we stand by this project and we vouch for it. And if you donate to this project, because obviously we needed to raise some production funds, if you donate to this project, it's tax deductible for you, and that you're not just donating money that goes into some rando's pocket. You're paying us, and then we distribute the funds to them, and everything's managed and everything's above board, by the book, et cetera, et cetera. So we were very lucky to get Film Independent as the fiscal sponsor. Great. And then the team just kind of came together, and it wasn't easy. Making films isn't easy by any means. You hear no a lot. Raising money isn't easy. Finding the right people isn't easy. Finding the right location isn't easy. None of it's easy. Casting isn't all that easy, but you just do it. You just do it. And before you know it, cameras are rolling, and it's kind of a shock, to be honest.
Nice.
When we got to Alaska, I myself was like, oh my God, I can't believe we're here.
Yeah, I bet there's a certain point where you're like, wow, this is happening. Holy cow. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it was a very intense, quick shooting process, and intense because of all the emotions that are flying around with this kind of content, and keeping a pretty rigid schedule. But we did it, and we shot it pretty quickly, and then there was an extended post-production where a lot of the really, really brilliant artists came in and just applied the fairy dust and made it now.
Nice. That's great. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
wonderfully like shot film and edited.
Colin Brennan.
It looks amazing. It's I don't know, everything about it is so good. So yeah, your crew clearly kicked some ass there. Props
They
to
sure
them.
did. They sure did. And you know, I know that we don't necessarily kind of have the time in this episode for me to celebrate everyone individually, but I really, you know, anyone who's listening to this, if you do watch it, spend some time looking at the credits at the end and look up each of those individual people because they're all amazing. But I will give a special shout out to Colin Brennan, my fellow executive producer and cinematographer, because he is ridiculously talented, and he'd never shot a narrative film before, and I'd never directed or produced a narrative film before, and we were just in the trenches together, making it happen, learning as we went, breaking all the rules, and just kind of like, me stressing, him being totally calm, and you know, we just kind of we got there together.
Great.
And he's the best. So look up everything that Colin Brennan has ever done. He's so brilliant. He's amazing, and an amazing photographer. He has a book coming out in September, so stay tuned for that.
Very cool. Awesome. Yeah. I'm glad you can shout out to them for however you need, because yeah, I feel like obviously it's a.
Can I just name everyone really quickly?
Absolutely. Whatever you want to say, go for it.
You have to understand, I love these people because with their collaborative artistry, I mean, not only do I adore everyone individually for various reasons, but this thing that we're discussing today just wouldn't exist without them. You know? Dan Cardone at Film Independent, my mentor, my fiscal sponsor, genius. Elisa Hain, one of my best friends in the world, Whiskey's auntie, who came and just did anything that was needed of her. She'd never worked in film before. She probably won't again, but she came along and whatever we needed, she was there. She made it happen. Production coordinator extraordinaire. Colin, I've mentioned. Our local Alaska crew, Chris Thomas, the gaffer, Quinton Oliver Smith, the first AC, Soren Siebitz, the drone pilot. I only got to know them for a very short time, but they were amazing to work with and so good at what they do. Ian Clark Doherty, the best production sound recordist around. Mickey O'Sullivan, actor extraordinaire, just really, really played the character of Liam so well with oh gosh, with so much raw emotion and skill and kindness and generosity, and he was just so awesome. Whiskey, the amazing canine star. David Deutsch, the composer, holy hell is he talented. He is unbelievable. Joe Molina, the colorist, incredible. Oh my God, Dustin McCamey, the visual effects supervisor. I mean,
No, it was great.
I'll stop, but look everyone up.
I can leave credits too in the show if you'd like. If you want to send me the links to their whatever the socials or whatever they have, or feel free to send that, and I can make a whole list.
Okay,
of them.
I will. I will.
Nice.
I know there is not time to talk about everyone, but let me tell you, listeners, they are a great crew of people, and I'm so grateful for all of them.
Yeah, that's so great that you had a small group to work with, because I could imagine that would be so much more intimate than a big budget film where there's 500 people in it and trailers and parking lots and stuff. And I could see how maybe that would kind of create a lot of you're on your own kind of feelings, and anyway, just a crew of 6 or whatever it was. Yeah, I would probably feel really intimate and awesome, and roles probably don't even matter at that point. You know what I mean? Like in a big budget film, I'm presuming, I don't know, I'm not a filmmaker at all, but I bet the audio person maybe was even, like, what if you did a shot this way, or what if you compose your angle this way? Like, and we probably wouldn't be offended because you're all in the trenches together, so I don't know. I'm just guessing if you can tell me if that's true or not, or if it was totally like everyone stuck to their
organized that, but yes. Yeah, no, everyone definitely had their job, and stuck to their job without too much on-set collaboration, only because although that does sound like the dream, and like with a small crew, you know, you could potentially be really collaborative when you're in the trenches together, because you have such a small crew, it actually makes it much more essential that everyone kind of sticks to what they're doing, because they already have so many responsibilities.
Gotcha. Okay, I stand corrected.
But no, not as a correction. but you know, it's just a time pressure thing and a scheduling thing where, and a pre-planning thing. Like, a lot goes into pre-production. So by the time the cameras are actually rolling, you're pretty clear. There are definitely some restrictions will pop up, like if a piece of gear breaks or the weather isn't doing what you need it to do or whatever, and you need to make some adjustments on the fly. But for the most part, by the time you get there,
yeah, that's true. I could picture
you got the goal.
Yeah, I can imagine. You know, you don't want to deviate too far from the storyboard, because then the post comes and the editor's like, yeah, that was cool, you did this stuff, but
you missed
it's not working for me. Yeah.
Where it does become super fun and collaborative is in post. And you know, you mentioned the editor, his name's Brad McLaughlin. He has such an incredible sense of story, and he works on much bigger projects, and so the fact that he was willing to even touch mine was awesome. I'm so grateful for him.
Nice.
And you know, he had a lot of patience and grace with me, especially because I'd never had a film in the editing process before. But yeah, in post, that's where it can become really fun in a collaborative sense.
Yeah.
When you're working with the composer to achieve the sounds that you want, and the post sound team.
How much time?
Video, by the way.
What's that? Sorry, what's that?
No, post sound is a whole team, and they come from Private Island Audio here in LA, and because there's not a lot of dialogue in this film, and sound is really important to me. I really think in terms of music and cool sound design and whatnot. And yeah, that's where it gets really fun when you're working with these people for the music and the color, the way it looks, and the edit and the special effects and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that would be fun. I bet. Totally. I mean, I just
explosions or anything, but you know what I mean.
Oh, so you weren't flying around like Spider-Man or anything from mountain to mountain?
That's the next one. No.
Oh, okay.
No, it's very raw and real, but there is a lot of movie magic that does go into even something that looks very simple in the finished.
Yeah. How did you guys emotionally, pull out these things? Because really, these are one of the most emotional things in humans' lives, right? So, these scenes that are just so heavy. I can't think of a better word than heavy. It's just so were those scenes really super hard to do or create or whatever, these really powerful emotional scenes?
Some were, yeah, to be honest. It's definitely a taxing mental load to bear. And I mean, and we're just actors, let's just not forget that there are so many people out there experiencing this in real life. We're just actors playing pretend. And even without the problems that our characters were having being our problems, I mean, if you are communicating emotion, you are feeling emotion, it's not all just technique. I mean, to deliver a performance that feels real, raw, and authentic, you really do have to put yourself there, emotion. And yeah, that can hurt. For me personally, I'm a pretty emotional creature, and I feel a lot, and it's typically right under the surface, and I spend a lot of time in my life masking, and so when I do get to step into a role like this, I find it very cathartic and deeply relaxing. It is jarring for the people around me, for sure. Like, there's a big scene in the bathroom, and for hours before that scene, I was just kind of walking around the cabin doing other things with my hat on, but just like crying, because I was just kind of just feeling in an anticipatory way. I was just feeling these emotions that were just ready to kind of come out of me later. And Mickey, oh my goodness, Mickey is such a great actor. He just delivers when he needs to, stays right in that place when you need him to, like in between takes or whatnot. Just stay there, Mickey. Stay right where you are, and he'll just kind of stay in this suspended state. But in between, he has such a great sense of humor, and is so much fun. But yeah, of course, some of those scenes had their challenges. I mean, the scene where, a spoiler alert, I mean, I think we all know what this film's about, but the scene where Annie actually does die, that was, I feel, at least, being on the opposite end of his performance, I feel that was definitely in some ways confronting for Mickey, because Mickey as the human being, as the actor, had to do some things to Caitlyn, the human being and the actor, that are pretty confronting, Yeah. But we got there.
Yeah.
We got there. And in order to kind of deliver the most real, raw, unvarnished performances that we could, and also to kind of preserve ourselves and our own mental health, I guess, we shot it pretty fast, in the sense that I didn't allow for any rehearsal. I mean, the camera team knew what they were doing. I didn't. So in terms of the performance, Mickey and I did not rehearse. We just had to kind of turn up ready and do it. And then for each scene, there really wasn't any more than like 2 takes,
Wow, cool.
Because the more times you run a scene, you might find some little exciting angles to play, or little sort of new nuggets of truth or whatnot. But I believe you do lose some of the really raw magic if you keep rehearsing over and over and over.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
I did that. I wanted it to feel real and imperfect, and not imperfect as actors, but like imperfect as people,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to do it. Yeah. Cause I mean, how many times can you cry on purpose? Right. You probably, there's only a certain amount of tears you can produce in a day. Right.
Hydration is key.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Is there,
so that was cool.
Now, you don't have to tell me or anything. It's just something that I was interested in, as far as how you researched how Annie dies, and what was that process like. And I don't know, I'm just, if you want to share that, I was just curious of how that research happened, and considering which way Annie would die.
Right. There was a lot of research. A lot. This thing, we shot it in March of 2022. As I said before, I wrote it at the end of 2019. 2020 and 2021 was all kind of wondering and answering questions and researching, and it was the development stage, and I had a lot of time to go down all kinds of rabbit holes, and I did. So I contacted Compassion and Choices. I sent the script to one of their awesome team members, Samantha Trad. We had Zoom meetings. It was never going to be a campaign for medical aid in dying. In fact, the story is sort of the worst case scenario for people who don't have access to that and have to take matters into their own hands. But I wanted the perspective of someone like Sam Trad, who, could make sure that I was dealing with it in a sensitive manner, and a thoughtful manner, and a respectful manner. Mm-hmm. So we had discussions. Sam put me in touch with Dan Diaz, who is Brittany Menard's widow.
Oh.
And I won't talk too much here about what Dan and I discussed, because that was a very personal conversation. But we did talk about Brittany, and he did give me his perspective on what the experience was like for him with her passing. For anyone who doesn't know who Brittany Menard is, she was an early advocate for medical aid in dying. She moved to Oregon so that she could access it from California. And she had a brain tumor, and she passed away using the drugs that were made available to her through legalized medical aid in dying, through compassion and choices. And in her final journey, she became an advocate, not just for medical aid in dying, but for compassion and choices. And she was really awesome. So look her up if it interests you. But I had a chat with Dan Diaz. I read Final Exit, not for the first time. I watched a lot of documentaries, watched a lot of interviews with various people. And I did a lot of research into what would be the least painful way to go.
Mm-hmm.
And it also had to work on film. So, for example, I sort of looked into helium, but knew that we couldn't make that work on film because we won't be able to inflate the bag and make it look realistic. So we went with something else. But and there was some really dark stuff that I uncovered through some beautiful stories and a lot of information, but some dark stuff too that I had to confront in order.
Yeah, but
I was considering like the production design and how things would look. I mean, I looked at a lot of, death scene photos, and that was taxing. Absolutely.
I bet.
But yes, it was all very lovingly and very extensively researched.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bet. Cool.
I mean, this film is a love letter to people who are like us, who believe that everyone should have the right to die in a dignified way. And it's a love letter to the people who, for whatever reason, cannot do that. And it's a love letter to the people who are left behind, especially the loved ones of people who are facing penalties, legal penalties, for assisting their loved ones to die peacefully.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Options. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that. That means a lot to people that are in that position and those positions, and I see it the same way too. Yeah, I saw the movie in the same way. I felt like it was talking to me directly. It was speaking to me about how I felt about everything in life, and I was crying the whole time. I was a baby the whole time, and it hit home in so many ways. So many different specific ways that I wish I could talk about, but I don't want to spoil much. But yeah, it is a love letter to people struggling with this, and there's so many millions of them too. That's the thing, is I hope I guess that could like make me go to the question that I wanted to ask you is, to me it feels like an activist video, but it's not an activist mission. I don't think that was ever your plan, but for me personally, it was. I was like, yes, someone's advocating for me. That's like kind of the definition, right? Like, and I know you didn't mean to or anything, but would you consider something now that to be sort of a right to die advocate yourself in a way because of this, or is this still just a movie you made that you love and whatever? Because I felt like it spoke to me in that way.
It's okay. So it is an activist film. It's just not an obvious campaign, if that makes sense.
Totally.
So it is an activist film in the sense that the person who wrote it is an activist, and that's me. and that my wish for the film and for the audiences who see it, my wish is that the film will inspire potentially new ways of thinking, some compassion, some discussion, even if people are displeased with the way that it ends. I always from the very start wanted the film to make people wonder if what they saw, just wonder how what they just saw made them feel and why that may be.
Yeah.
And if it made them feel uncomfortable, why? If it made them feel relieved, why? You know? So in that sense, yeah, it definitely is rooted in activism. But when I say it's not a campaign, what I meant was I didn't want to present a picture perfect story where everything is okay with everyone.
Yeah.
And the ending is nothing but happy. And because that's false. That's just not life. It's not accurate. It's not how it goes. Whether the way someone dies is oh, I'm sorry. I just knocked my cat. I'm sorry. Whether the way someone dies is through, you know, medical aid in dying, or they're committing suicide in the shadows, or whatever it is. I forgot what I was saying because
you were saying it was why did
the campaign.
Yeah.
I intentionally wanted these characters to for their actions to potentially have consequences, at least for one of them, because the fact is, when not everyone has the universal right to die in the way that they choose, there are going to be situational casualties somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
And so presenting something that is a campaign, that is all, you know, happy-go-lucky with a perfect ending that challenges nobody, to me, that's not helpful. That's not helpful.
No.
And I know that particularly the ending of this film, I know that not everyone is thrilled. Not everyone loves it. It's definitely divisive.
I was going to ask.
Really okay with that. Good.
I was going to ask it. Good. Yeah, that's awesome, because that was my next question was, how did people react to the movie? You know, were you really nervous about a controversial response and negative feedback as far as?
I didn't want to upset. I didn't want to not upset. I didn't want the film to seem like a disservice to anyone that I really care about, like to anyone that is suffering and who I wanted to. There are certain groups of people that I wanted to feel I was honoring, if that makes sense. And the thought of upsetting those people definitely was present in my mind. But you, quite frankly, no matter what you do, you're going to upset someone, and you just you just kind of have to stick to the vision and hope that, you know, for the most part, you do more good than harm. And also, in terms of the storytelling in this, I don't believe that audiences need to be spoon-fed every detail. In fact, I'm really against that. I don't think every question needs to be answered. I don't think that it's necessarily the best kind of cinema experience to have to reach the end of a film and have nothing more to think about, because the filmmakers have answered every question for you, and there's nothing to leave you wondering. And so I intentionally, if you watch it carefully, every question is answered through action rather than, you know, exposition. So if you kind of put the clues together, then you know exactly what's going on. But if you don't, that's okay too. And you can kind of have a choose your own adventure experience.
Oh, totally. Because the way you said earlier, it's it forces you psychologically to kind of question, why do I question your own beliefs and your own standards on where you're at on ethics of life and this whole context of this subject matter. Do I believe this is the right thing? Why? Do I not believe this is the right thing happening? Why? Is this cool? Why? Or is this not cool? Why? Stuff like that. I like that, because it makes you question. Like, you don't have to do that. It's not your job. Like, I like how you left that up to me to think about, and ponder and stuff,
But also the audience are such powerful storytellers in themselves, because I mean, you can lead them in a direction, sure, but everyone who experiences any form of art is going to apply their own life experience to it, and their own opinions, their own beliefs, and create will derive a story from the story that is different to the person to them. That's so cool. That's so cool that people interpret things in different ways.
Oh, completely. Yeah. Because when you make a film that's this is the way it is, this is the way it is, and you're supposed to feel exactly this way about it, like, okay, fine, that could be if it's a good movie, sure, whatever. But the open-ended kind of a thing is really cool, especially with the way you do this movie. I feel so inhibited to talk, but I don't want to ruin it for the people. Like, I seriously want everyone to watch it. Please watch it. But anyway, it's hard to talk about some things when I don't want to give some things away,
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Cool. So yeah, you bet. I mean, it's an honor to talk to you. Like, what do you have plans for the future? Do you have any future movies to make, or is this the end of your Right to Die journey of creativity, or more movies in general, or where are you at on that stuff?
I do want to make another one. I really do.
Yeah.
And now, because this first one was such a happy accident in that I, had no intention of making a movie. I just had an idea that I couldn't separate myself from. Well, now I find myself in the position that most filmmakers find themselves in, which is, okay, I really want to make another film. And I know who I want to cast in it, even. Like, I can see their faces on screen, but I've got the old writer's block. I really do. I have started 3 or 4 different scripts that I've abandoned because I've initially thought, oh, that's a compelling idea. And then the more time I've spent with it, the less interesting it became to me. It sort of wasn't the siren's call had created,
Yeah.
And so I've kind of cast them aside and okay, well, God, if it's not even continuing to be interesting to me as I write it, then why would I make it, and why would anyone want to watch it? So I have some thoughts for sure that are about sort of casting and style. Where after this is very almost voyeuristic and very intimate and very raw. Well, now that I know that I like filmmaking, I want to challenge myself to make something that moves quickly and is really slick, and is the complete opposite. I just don't know what the story is yet.
Yeah,
but there'll be conflict for sure.
Well, there'll be a new pandemic will happen in a couple years. Don't worry, you'll get the boredom out of whatever. Just kidding, bad joke.
I do have a little controversial plan for writing another one. I mentioned earlier, because of this dumb BRCA thing, I'm going to have some preventive surgeries. I don't know when, coming up soon, I would say in the next few months, depending on, an oncologist and a plastic surgeon and whatnot. But I'm going to have a preventive bilateral mastectomy and reconstruction. And there's going to be a lot of healing from those surgeries, right? So my plan is to just, be resting. I'm pretty sure there'll be some kind of painkiller that I'm given, and maybe that'll take my mind to an interesting place, and then I'll just kind of roll with it.
Yeah, there you go. Like, take 1 pill extra of whatever morphine they give you, and you're gonna have something. You'll have another overnight thing.
I'll totally just fall asleep. But I would like to make another one. I don't know when, but it'll be made with love for sure.
Are you also interested in just acting in general for other films and just become an actress for a role in a movie too?
Oh yeah. I mean,
Okay. I didn't know if that was.
Oh yeah, no, I am sort of first and foremost an actor. I adore it. I am becoming, I would say, a different kind of actor as I get older. I'm approaching 40. I'm turning 39 next month, so I'm quickly approaching 40. And when I was young, I sort of started in plays when I was 14, and through my late teens and through my 20s and through the front half of my 30s, I had all the energy and enthusiasm in the world, and I would do just about any project just doing it. Now, as I get older, now I'm a little bit more selective about the kinds of projects that I want to give my energy to. Not in an egotistical way at all. I just have a finite reserve of
Totally. Yeah.
I don't, it can be the smallest production ever, or it can be a huge one. It sort of doesn't matter to me. But the I guess the role has to be right. I can no longer force myself to fit molds that I don't naturally fit, if that makes sense.
No, that's great. And I bet that's a better place to be for sure.
Yeah. Now it's just like, it's a treat, I don't feel like I have to be an actor all the time. I can just do things that compel me to do them.
That's awesome. And this movie's been in all kinds of, I mean, how many festivals has it been in to date?
So all in, it's done quite a number. The screenplay had its own little festival run before we made the film, because I was testing it out in a sense. I wanted to see how people responded to just the screenplay, to see if it was worth investing all the time, money, and effort into making it a film. The film itself has played less festivals than the screenplay competed in, which is totally great and fine and understandable, because most of these film festivals program short films, and a short film, if it's 20 minutes long, that's a long short film. So if a programming block in a short film festival is 60 to 90 minutes and you are entering for consideration this 40-minute depressing behemoth of a thing, then probably they can't select you because you screw up their programming. But it certainly has played some festivals, and the festivals that it's played at have been the right festivals for it, and likewise it has been the right project for those festivals and those audiences. And it's been such a joy to get to be in those rooms while it's screening, and then get to talk to the audience afterwards, and
that must be fun.
Receive people's questions, critiques, and feedback. It's cool. It's really cool.
I bet that's super fun.
A little nerve-wracking, but fun. I always have a glass of wine before.
Good call.
So I'm not sitting there like
But still, that's the fun stuff about being done with it too. I mean, I'm sure the process was fun too, but to finish a project and have it, that's kind of pays off in and of itself. Just the relief of the burden in a way. It's like dishes in your sink. It's It's not the best analogy, but whatever. You know what I mean.
It's an all-consuming thing, isn't it? So it is nice to have a healthy separation from something that, to that point, you've been completely obsessed with.
Yeah, and especially something that's so heavy and dark. It might be a relief in that regard too, to just be like, okay, I don't have to think about at least as much of dark things every day.
Yeah, genuinely, I think, in fact, I think it's been proven in studies that the brain cannot always distinguish between what's real and what's pretend, and so if you are creating memories through your thoughts or through the doing, through the performance, even though they're false memories, they still have, if not completely the same, a very similar effect on your brain. And so there is, I I definitely don't want to like overinflate the craft of acting. Acting, you're telling stories. Like ultimately it's a beautiful thing, but it's a fun thing. It's not that serious. It's not brain surgery. But but there is interestingly a kind of like creative trauma that can happen when you are dealing with heavy material for an extended period of time.
Yeah, I bet.
Absolutely. And so it is not an immediate separation that occurs when the thing is done. Like you really do have to kind of take some time to decompress and get it out of your system, especially if it's something that you've worked on as a long time. Like for me, all in from go to woe at the end of festival screenings to getting it online. It's like 5 years of my life,
Yeah, wow.
Time.
That is, geez.
To think about it and worry about it and, love it and raise it like a pet. But yeah, it does leave a mark. And then eventually once it's sort of out of your system, then you can start worrying about having writer's block and not knowing what to do with the next thing.
Yeah. At least it's a little trophy on your shelf though,
It's the creative struggle,
Yeah.
It's fine. It's
so
a gift.
where is this playing right now? Is this just because you sent it?
I just put it on YouTube.
It's just right now a YouTube thing. Okay, so I'll put the film in the links below and the show notes, and please, I beg all of you listening, watch it. Spend 40 minutes of your time. It's worth it. It'll be well worth it. It's an amazing film, and it'll get some views. Are you hoping to get views out of it as far as YouTube goes? And or is that?
Look, it would be nice if people watched it and it enriched them or challenged them in some way. That's kind of the goal. In terms of I'm not looking to monetize this thing at all. It has a channel created just for it. It's the only video that's ever going to go up on that channel. It's never going to be monetized for that reason. There will never be ads. I'm not there as a YouTube creator. I hope that all YouTube creators who are trying to earn some revenue from their videos do, but this one it's just like a standalone thing. That was never the goal.
Okay.
And yeah, it's just kind of sitting there in its own channel. Do I want views? I mean, I want views if people feel compelled to view it. Yeah.
But I hope it gets.
I got all over that.
What's that? I missed that part.
I've got no control over that, so I'm not going to worry about that.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, I hope though it gets millions and stuff and becomes something that's, hey, it makes people think, like you were saying, for sure.
I do hope it finds its way to people who it may help in some way, or who are seen by it and not so alone in the world.
Yeah. Or most importantly, like to me, let's just say you convince 10,000 people to like literally change their mind on the subject, and now that they've become an advocate for the right to die, and maybe someday they'll have a voting pamphlet to vote. They'll say yes this time, instead of no, because they're like, oh, I get it. Like, wow, maybe it would do something like that, and that would be amazing. I think for sure.
That would be cool too.
Even if it's changing 100 minds, like whatever. It's
that's like that would be that level of honor, like to be able to contribute in a major way like that is sort of incomprehensible to me. That is so I hope that would be amazing.
Well, we'll start with 10. Let's make that a goal. Hopefully you'll get 10 watchers from this podcast and people, it'll spread from there or whatever. But no, I like how you've made it kind of just a project for yourself, and it's not littered with ads or promoting whatever and all that stuff. Speaking of promoting, is there anything you want to plug though for yourself or anything like that? Because I'm happy to add links in the show in the description, and your social links for the crew that you had. Whatever you want to give me, let me know, and I'll put it in. But
thank you. I mean, I'm just chilling, waiting for the next thing to present itself to me, probably from my own mind. But I definitely would encourage anyone to listen to the soundtrack. Watch the film first, experience the soundtrack with the film, with the vision, because that's why it was composed. But David Deutsch's amazing soundtrack for After This is streaming everywhere. So if you love the way it sounds after you watch it, you can for sure listen to just the music.
Oh, cool.
And it's everywhere that music streams. and yeah, check out Colin's photography work and other videography work, because he's great.
So is there any social media or any place that you're at that you'd like to plug for yourself, or anything, or the film?
Thank you for asking. It's not so much to plug it, but I'm always happy to hear from people. If anyone wants to reach out and say, hey, or tell me that I've done something right or wrong, it's all good. So yeah, there is an Instagram account that's tied to this project, which is at After This Film. Everything is at After This Film. So the YouTube channel, After This Film, Instagram, After This Film.
Cool.
And if you DM me, I will read it.
Nice. Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Well, I hope people enjoy it and love it. And I sincerely appreciate spending time with you and being able to chat with you about this. It's a film that I've always wanted to make. I had plans to kind of make one myself, but then COVID hit. Whatever, excuses, blah blah, but it never happened.
There is so much room in this world for film. Like, it, even if what you were thinking of has a very similar or even exact storyline as this, make it anyway. Who cares? There's room for everyone's contribution.
Big question is, how much motivation do I have? That's
it is hard. I will admit that making a film is hard. So.
Yeah, I bet, because
I'll help you if you need.
Oh, there you go. You'll be my actress.
Oh yeah.
No, I don't know. But anyway, I was just saying, yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And you did what I kind of, maybe that's what it was some watching your film, thinking of it in a vicariously way, like through you. I was like, yeah, that's what I would have done something like that, sure. And
I feel this way about you and what you're doing, and I'm sure a lot of people do. The fact that you have this podcast that's available in video form on YouTube, and also as audio on the podcast streaming podcast app, I guess.
Yeah. I don't even know what they call it.
Podcast app. I never know how to describe a podcast episode. I guess it's just
I know
a podcast episodes, but you know what I mean. The fact that it's available for people to listen to, and also available on YouTube for people to kind of watch and find there. The fact that you bring this whole community together to have some really important, and sometimes, I mean, I've listened to a number of your podcast episodes. We've just met, so I haven't made my way through all of them yet, but I've listened to a number of them. And the conversations that you are having with these amazing people are really challenging conversations. And there are some big ideas that you discuss with such grace and in such depth with really awesome, knowledgeable, intelligent, considered, sensible people. This is real stuff. These are important conversations for people to have. And the fact that you're facilitating these conversations for other people to listen to or watch and experience is no small feat, my friend. Like, this is
thank you.
Amazing what you're doing. So,
thank you so much.
The honor is mine. I can't even believe that you invited me to chat with you in this way. That is
thank you so
cool.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. No, I appreciate it, and I feel the same way. So yeah, thanks.
Appreciation society.
Yeah. Well, you're amazing. I appreciate what you do and hanging out with you. And just so the audience knows, this is our 4th take of this recording because my stupid modem has crashed every time. I had to switch it out for a whole new one. And it looks like we did great today. So anyway, little side irrelevant.
I'm not sad about it. I love that we've been able to get together and
Yeah, me too. It was a great chat.
have many conversations, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
One made it to the full recording status, but like it's been awesome chatting with you, my new friend. Stay in touch.
Absolutely. 100% for sure. Yeah. So I look forward to talking with you more and seeing what the future of your work is, and truly grateful to have you on. Honestly, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin. And if y'all out there are still listening, thank you too. Thank you for being a loyal subscriber of Kevin's, and thanks for listening to me waffle on for however long this has been. I appreciate you.
No, it's been perfect. This is great. So take care. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Caitlyn, so much for being on. It was such a wonderful conversation to have with you about your film, and just I admire what you've done, and it's so influential to me, and I hopefully to plenty of others. So thank you so much. I really appreciated it. Before I ended the show, I wanted to not only say thanks to her, but I wanted to announce that my friend Christy has started signatures for a medical aid in dying initiative that she's proposing, which if passed will extend the choice to exit life 25 years old and up, and it's in Berkeley, California. So it's specific to Berkeley. So even if there's just one person listening to this, please contact her and to help her not only get signatures, but just sign the petition. Anybody that's a resident of Berkeley, please contact her. A lot of the information will be on a page, the righttodie.com/made in California, and that's obviously MAID, medical aid in dying. So righttodie.com/made in California, where you'll get all the information you need to contact her, and hopefully it'll be a great initiative that will get passed, and that would be amazing, even if it was just a small little city in one town of one country. It's one step forward. So she's getting signatures, and I made a page for her on that page. Also, it's also in the Get Involved tab if you just want to go to the righttodie.com. There's a link you'll find there. So if you could help out anyway with her, that would be super, super great. It's an awesome thing for her to do, and I appreciate all the work that she's doing for that. So I just wanted to announce that, and thank you so much for listening. Thanks again to Kaitlyn Clare for having an amazing conversation and having me being humble enough, having me just humbled by interviewing a filmmaker, making something that I virtually in my head have always wanted to do. So it was truly an honor, and I hope you guys got something out of it. And thanks again for listening to the Right to No Longer Exist podcast. Take care, and I appreciate your time. Thanks. Bye.
You have been listening to the Right to No Longer Exist, a Right to Die podcast. We hope that you have enjoyed your time and found the information valuable. Please visit us at therightttonolongerexist.com to learn more about our organization and mission statement. You can also follow us on our social media platforms at The Right to No Longer Exist. There you will find links to our individual channels as well. If you would like to contact us, please email therightttonolongerexist@gmail.com. Thank you for your time, and let's remember that during the time that it took to listen to this podcast, dozens, if not hundreds of people endured a horrific death by suicide. Let's fight together for a world where this doesn't happen anymore. See you next time on the Right to No Longer Exist podcast.